Let's talk about the Metal Gear Solid porn parody, because let's be real here, these porn parodies tend to kind of like pop up like cops and roaches. There's literally like no stopping them just to begin with, so let's get this thing started. It was really only a matter of time as far as I'm concerned before Metal Gear Solid kind of porn parody kind of happened, if you really think about it. Look, because you look at Quiet from Metal Gear Solid 5, or you look at any of the weird type of Japanese, things that Kojima pretty much put in any of the games, and you can kind of see that this was something that just was screaming like sexy fan fiction or some weird type of anime. That's just the simple truth. Now, overall, Metal Gear Solid, the porn parody, some people probably saying, oh no, what would Kojima pretty much think? I can tell you right now, after watching it, Kojima would probably whip out his dick, start stroking that shit, and be like, hey, at least that's a little bit more faithful than fucking Metal Gear Solid Survive. But then again, that's just me. Now, overall, I would have to say this right now. Obviously, Metal Gear Solid 5 was not completed. We all know that shit. And I would say this right now, if you actually want to see the shit, this is actually a completed fucking thing. There is actually a fucking finish. Boy, oh boy, is there an actual finish, right? In a weird type of way. Now, here's the thing about this porn parody, just to begin with. This shit is kind of convoluted in some sort of way, so I think it's actually kind of faithful, so I thought that was actually pretty good. But let's get into this shit right now. The basic plot kicks off pretty much with them right on the screen saying any resemblance to any of these characters is strictly coincidental or a miracle. So it's nice to see that Bryce obviously has a little bit of a sense of humor for their own shit. But at the very beginning, we get a plane crash. Simply put, just looking like, Metal Gear Solid 5, just to begin with. I thought it was a nice plane crash, whatever. But the thing is, the plane crash never really means anything towards the plot. So it was just like, okay, that doesn't really make much sense. And then all you pretty much get is boss walking the earth like Kane and Kung Fu. And then we pretty much get our plot, which is pretty much just the entire take out Quiet mission from Metal Gear Solid 5. And that's pretty much the basic thing. A couple of things that I really did enjoy on this porn parody was that they actually did kind of put some attention to detail. They actually did put the alert signal just to begin with. Now, our, obviously, two leads is pretty much Casey Calvert and pretty much, Charles Dare. He still referred to his boss, and I actually think he actually looks pretty good, even though his, boss's hand looks like it's a shitty cosplay glove of, Jin from Tekken, or the shit that, Turbo Man used that shot out those, like, laser disc or whatever it was to shoot at Sinbad and fucking Jingle all the way. That's pretty much what it basically kind of looked like, and the attention to detail isn't really that well done. It was nice to see that they actually put the shit in the studio, not in the studio, and actually managed to shoot this shit outside, so I thought that was actually kind of cool. But they take references and they actually take jabs or whatever, how stupid some of these shits is. So pretty much, like I said, Quiet, which is pretty much the assassin, but she's called Hushy here with a great ass, apparently they say, and she does have a nice one. Apparently he has to kind of like go to a higher vantage point and kind of sneak around her, whatever, as you pretty much know as the mission kind of goes. They even take jabs at how stupid a fucking box sneaking thing was, because let's be real, even though we're fans of Metal Gear Solid, for all of us out there, the box sneaking shit is kind of dumb. He even mentions, how did you even see past my high quality stealth technique between the box? And then you get the shitty ass fight or whatever. And then they pretty much, start going at it. Boss even says, what do I have to do to kind of make you join Diamond Dolls? Because they can't say dogs, obviously. She pretty much says, even though she's a woman of few words, she pretty much says, yo dick, my ass, let's do this right now, okay? So that's pretty much what the basic thing was, and then we started to get a little bit thing. I did like the fact that when she started to do a blowjob, right, Charles Dare legitimately says, so you're a snake eater, huh? And I legitimately laughed out loud because I thought that was actually quite fucking funny, just to begin with. But overall, like I said, I think that was actually quite good. Now, the sex to begin with, I feel like the sex is just kind of okay. Maybe it's the fact that I actually had to turn that shit down because there's a couple of relatives in the other room. Or maybe it's the fact that I just wasn't really that overly interested in it. Or maybe it was just that nothing was really happening. But I feel like it was just a typical thing. Yes, there's a lot of anal in this thing. And boy, is a lot of anal to the point where you could literally see her asshole. And boy, is it fucking pink. That's pretty much the basic shit of this thing right now. Now, overall, like I said, there's a lot of anal on this thing, and there's a lot of blowjobs and a lot of gagging, and that's fun. And then he actually does a cum shot, which is pretty fucking lackluster to the, from my perspective, just to begin with, because I feel like the chick's giving her all. Her ass looks nice, doing cowgirl, bouncing up and down, nice, a little slapping, ripping the, the ass shits off. Because that's weird here. Quiet was simply put. It just seemed like Kojima was fucking, like, whether you want to look at the logistics behind the character, whatever, the depth of the character, Quiet was clearly meant to kind of get people's erections going, and boy, did it kind of do that. And I would say that the girl's case caliber, actually, her tits actually does look like Quiet's tits. So I thought that was actually pretty good detail. But other than that, there's not really much to say. They do put, once he does kind of come over, right, they do put the game over thing, the game over, signal when it's like snake, 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 except they put boss pretty much. But I thought that was actually pretty nice. And then you even have the, the talking between boss and, the colonel, whatever it may be, literally like the game. So I thought that was actually pretty well done. But overall, this Metal Gear Solid porn parody, as far as I'm concerned, I could look at notes, but there's not really much here as far as I'm concerned. You know, he's called Boss, she's called Hushy because they can't really do that, but that's pretty much it. I would have been more impressed if when she like took the anal stuff. I would have been more impressed if simply put she would have said nothing because I think that would have been more impressive for Quiet just to begin with, or Hushy as they say in this thing. But overall, I think Metal Gear Solid, or Metal Rear Solid for the most part, is just overall a very decent porn parody. It's nothing really spectacular for me, and I think if I had to rate it, as you pretty much know, I pretty much would say this is a decent shot. It's not necessarily anything spectacular, but if you are a hardcore Metal Gear Solid fan, then you pretty much will have a hardcore erection. But then again, that's just me. Comment, subscribe, and like. I'm Chris Smith, and I'm signing out.